It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me who's the GOAT, I'll tell you who's not great. And which team always make you go, I wait. Yeah, hold on.
Hello, Bubba Bunch, and welcome back to another episode of Small Talk with your boy, Bubba Lutz. And I enjoyed doing the first episode. A little long. I didn't think I'd get into Kyler Murray that long. But I think that it's time to do another one. I feel good about where the content is going, especially with football season around the corner. And especially with today's topic, speaking about preseason and the whole idea of whether or not it's just really worth it at the end of the day. And I'm just going to give you my opinion on it. And if you guys want to give your opinion, what you guys think would be a better format for the preseason, if you like it now, let me know in the comments down below. Hit me up on TikTok when I'm going to post a little snippet of this on there. And just overall, like on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, let me know what you guys think about this topic itself. But I really wanted to dive into this topic because it's always been a dislike for me around this time when we're getting so close to the regular season, like openers, start of the NFL season itself. That excitement does come right around the end of August, the early part of September. But I feel like a lot of people think that football is already back now that we're getting to the preseason games this week. We started off with Jacksonville and the Raiders last week with the Hall of Fame game. Woo, right? And it was like a blowout. I didn't really hear much of it. The starters didn't play. And now with a lot of the other teams starting this week, including the Cowboys, that not that excited for, it bears the question what you guys think of, is the preseason worth watching? Is it necessary for players? But what really made me want to talk about this in a brief, mention, or a small talk, I should say, is Aaron Rodgers coming out and saying that playing one drive in the preseason isn't going to do anything for you, especially for a guy like himself who has been around the block for so many years. I mean, we're closing in on like 2 decades, really, and by the end of his career, he's going to be at that mark. A guy like that doesn't just lose his abilities and his precision, his focus, his game planning, whatever, all of his attributes. They don't just all go away during the offseason. Now, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, we know that he is very open and brutally honest when it comes to his football career, football in general, the NFL, including the last few days when he's talking about the psychedelics and, how he's, using these psychedelic drugs, before games, and how the NFL life isn't so hard, like you have a certain schedule, but the schedule in the NFL isn't as hard as people think. This is a man who has been back-to-back MVPs, who has won a Super Bowl, who has reached the mountaintop and has been at an elite level his entire career, really. He's been through it all. And for him to basically just shun down this idea of the preseason, it's remarkable, because I feel like a lot of players think the same. I would say that the majority of NFL players today would consider the preseason useless or unnecessary. And you can make the argument that when it comes to these younger players, rookies, undrafted free agents, guys that are still looking to earn a spot on a team, they've bounced around the league, preseason is the perfect time. Preseason shows what you've learned in camp, and if you can execute it during a game against a different opponent. So it's not like you're playing at 100%. I bet there are a lot of players that think this is my chance. This is my opportunity to make a roster spot. And I think that's a great thing. I think when it comes to players like that, they deserve that opportunity. And you can say that in training camp, you can't really show everything that you can do. And yeah, there's some outliers of guys that have proven it in preseason games and have shocked, their coaching staff, the fans, and say like, hey, maybe we should give this guy an opportunity. I that's a good thing for the league in general. The majority. Do I really want to watch Jake Luton or like who's the backup to Tennessee? I don't know. I don't care. There are a few exceptions you can say, but let's say, for instance, for me as a Cowboys fan, I don't really care. There's nothing really that shows in the preseason like, oh, I want to watch this guy play. I want to see this guy in action. At the end of the day, it's like, it's not going to matter when it's week 1 of the regular season. Coaching staffs have their certain game plans. Some of those guys that make that roster spot don't even really get an opportunity in those regular season games. And when you say that football is back, but I got to watch Jordan Love instead of Aaron Rodgers go against the Saints, against the Panthers or whatever, am I really watching the quality of football that I'm used to? No, I'm not. And when it is the regular season, I'm telling you, man, last year, I watched the most football I've ever watched in my life. I literally watched almost every single game every single week. There was the exception of not watching the Jaguars game or not watching maybe a Panthers game, whatever. Like, I'm going to watch the games that intrigue me. And right now, if we're thinking about the preseason, you can say that your team, your favorite team, you want to watch them just because it is your team. You want to support them. And it'd be a nice way to kind of end a night, coming home from work and you get to watch some football. That's great. But it's hard to say that the only intriguing thing coming out of the preseason this week is if Deshaun Watson's going to play. And it's not because I want to watch Deshaun Watson play. It's just the idea of seeing him on a field right now is unbelievable. It's going to be shocking to me to see that man on the field after everything that's been going on. Not just in the last year or so, just from the whole start of the holdout with the Texans, him saying he doesn't want to play, he wants to leave, and that whole debacle, but then obviously the sexual misconduct, the sexual assault, all those lawsuits, and now we get into the suspension and the NFL appeal, the NFLPA's lawsuit against the NFL. It's just a whole ordeal, but yet this man at the end of the day on Friday might play. He might be on the field, playing drives. This man hasn't played football in over a year. So I'm intrigued by that, right? I don't want to watch the Browns play. I don't want to watch preseason play to see if the third string quarterback might have something to show. I'm sorry, but if I didn't watch the USFL, I'm damn sure not going to watch preseason games because it's just not the same intensity, the same competition. It's not entertaining for me in the same way that regular season football is or playoff football is. And if you just want to run your scrimmages and run your game plan, see how they execute on the field now that you're going against a different opponent, go right ahead. But I don't really see the idea of televising it or going to a game. If they're cheap, if the tickets are like right next to the players and they're $5, $10, cool. That's all. But I'm pretty sure there's people out there that are paying over $100 for a preseason game. And I just don't see why. I went to a scrimmage one time for the Dallas Cowboys, like a practice at the Star. I don't even know if I paid money for that. If I did, it was no more than $15. That was exciting to me. Just to see the players like roam around, see how they do drills and all that. That's pretty much what preseason is. But I guarantee you the value of a preseason ticket is higher than just going to a practice, right? But when you have Aaron Rodgers, who has been the best player in all of football the last 2 years, according to the award, right? You can say that Aaron Donald is there as well. But for him to say that, it's just, there's no reason for it. It really isn't. I love college football in the sense that it just goes right in, right? You have the red versus white game, the scrimmage game between the first team and the second team. You switch them up. You just want to see the guys in action. Cool. But week one is week one. If you got a team that wants to play at AT&T Stadium the first week, let's say, for instance, Ohio State. Ohio State's going against Notre Dame in week one. Week one of the college football season, you get a banger like that. You've been waiting for months after the college football playoff, since the national championship, and you want to see just the college football atmosphere. You want high school football even. The intensity of like going back to school, but you don't get that feeling until it's Friday, and it's Friday night. The lights are on, and you finally get to play some football. It's different in the NFL. You get a warm-up. You get a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who's going to play one drive week one of the preseason. Then in week two, it plays 2 series. The game 3 of the preseason, you might play a quarter. And then in week 4, you play a half. What's the point, right? Like, it's Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers. You know what they're going to do. There's nothing that's really going to change in their offense. So why do you want to just kind of give me a small platter or a small appetizer of what I'm going to get in week one? I'd rather just wait. Build the intensity. Build the Bills versus the Chiefs Thursday night. Like, I don't want to see Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes on the field until week one. Now, I think just in general, college football has a much better scheme when it comes to just avoiding a preseason. And same thing with like their overtime. I think college football implements a lot of great things that the NFL should, and the preseason or lack thereof should be considered one of those. Now, I think a huge argument that you can say to the preseason is to warm these guys up to where injuries don't pile up, where it's just an instant, like, their body's in shock because they went from just small little practices, scrimmages, to where they're not going all out. And now in week one, they're going against the best of the best, and they're giving it their all. The intensity's there. All of it's building up the adrenaline. It's just going to flow through their blood, and that could cause a lot of injuries. I'd say that argument is out the window, especially with the last few years in the NFL, with the amount of injuries that are occurring in practices that are occurring very early on in the season. Like, what has preseason done for them? If you're just going to sit out the guys that still get injured, what's the point of doing the game itself? Just have a longer training camp to where some of these younger guys get their opportunity, and you play amongst yourselves, and you maybe have another team show up. They've been doing that for years in the NFL, to where you have, like, let's say the Chargers coming to town, and you have a joint practice. Have a scrimmage there. Have a little preseason game. Cool. I don't think it needs to be televised. I really don't. If you just want to have some coverage there and have some footage of it, awesome. I think that's more than enough. But when you have these guys getting injured in training camp, like, just for instance, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, both of their centers are out. They get knee injuries. They get carted off the field in training camp, in practices. You got guys that are tearing their ACLs, their Achilles, just from practices. And they've been in training camp for a little over a month now. And yet these injuries are still occurring. These brutal injuries. I mean, we're talking guys that are going to be out for the remainder of the year, and it just started. One of the most brutal ones was Mekhi Becton. I think Mekhi Becton stands out for me because he's just so talently. No, actually, that's not the word I'm looking for. He embodies a lot of raw talent. And whenever he came into the league, yes, he had a lot of room for improvement. But within the first year, man, that man was looking like one of the best tackles in all of the NFL. Last year, he gets the stinger in his shoulder, deals with that injury all year long, misses a lot of games. You think now he's going to be healthy. Within the first couple weeks of training camp, he doesn't even get to play a preseason game. The dude's going to be out for the rest of the year. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. But that's where it really doesn't matter if it's a preseason game or not. You know, if you could say like, well, at any point, this guy could be out for the rest of the year. You know, one play can ruin their season. Well, yeah, that could happen in the preseason and regular season. These guys already go through a 17-game schedule. They only have one bye week. They should implement at least two. These guys go through weeks to where they have to play on Thursday night, Friday night. You know, we're going to have some games on Friday now. They don't get a full week of rest like they used to. So don't come at me and tell me that it's going to be okay because they get to warm up in these preseason games. That's the worst thing that you could do because they're already going to go through a rough schedule of traveling, of playing these games on a short period of time. And they're going to go back to back to back to back in these brutal games. Divisional games are going to be hard. You know, once they reach the playoffs, they're already banged up. Why add more? Why add another few weeks? Even if they don't play a lot, that's still a chance of them getting injured. And so, for me, when you take away that, I guess, part of their lives, you know, part of their season to where they play a few series and then they get off the field and they just talk amongst themselves on the sideline. Yes, that injury possibility is there. I don't see the benefits overcoming those risks or just the waste of time. I think it's a better idea for the NFL, for these offenses, these defenses, these coaching staffs, and especially with like newer coaching staffs, to implement their game plans just straight out of week one. I think there's more fun in that. I know they're not going to like that, but guess what? Deal with it. You know, college football deals with it. You know, those coaches, if they're going somewhere new, they just got to go with the flow week one. And that's when it starts. Their game plan starts right there. They're got to see if it's going to work or not. And then throughout the season, you start to see the changes. When some of the new coaches in the NFL, they already get to see their game plan work in the preseason. Well, you don't really get to see it in full form because you're not getting the right players in that system yet. You're getting the backup. You're getting the third string wide receiver. You're not going to utilize the best of your abilities. Let's say, for instance, with like Darren Waller and Devontae Adams. You know, like you can build a game plan around them, but you won't really see it in effect until week 4. And what's the point of that? Just might as well go into week 1. And then you really get to determine who's building a great season when they're adapting through the first few weeks of the season. There's a lot of teams that do really good in the early part of the season. Let's say, for instance, last year, Carolina Panthers, really good at the beginning, and then they just died off. You know, was it because of a preseason? No. It was just in week 1, that's when it started, and that's when their game plan started, and then we start to see who really turns the tide, who changes their game plan a little bit. It's a 17-week season. It's not going to matter what you do in the first week of preseason. These guys are professionals. They've been around the block. They've played football for their entire lives. They played high school, college, multiple years of college. Do you really think they need to warm up and get loose to play some football? No. A lot of these guys are older too. It's a waste of time. I don't need to see Tyron Smith play in a preseason. I think he knows how to play left tackle. There's no point in the preseason. It'd be more fun, more exhilarating, and just the anticipation would be better if you just said, football begins this Thursday night, Chiefs and Bills. It's the first bit of football you've seen in the NFL since the Super Bowl. How is that not exciting for you? I'm not getting excited for preseason. The players aren't getting happy or excited for preseason. They want to get on the field, cool, but they want the exhilaration. They want the the adrenaline pumping. They just want that warm blood going through them and saying, this is it. It starts now. Week 1, win or lose, it starts now. And our season starts now. It doesn't start, I get to play a series and, hopefully I don't get hurt. It just makes more sense to just get rid of preseason. And I'll compromise a little bit here. If you just want to play one preseason game, that's fine. But you gotta play those starters. I really think that at that point you're saying this is a warm up to the big time. So why not use our best guys? Let's make sure that everything's okay. I am not confident in that compromise because I would rather just wait another week. Like what's the point of seeing them once and then you start the season? These guys go through so much health-wise. They put their bodies through so much pain. The coaching staffs, the front offices, they got to do so much work to keep these guys healthy. It just would make more sense to them, to the fan bases, to just wait, anticipate for week 1 of the regular season. And when you have your back-to-back MVP quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who is brutally honest, but most of the time right. I truly think that Aaron Rodgers is a breath of fresh air when it comes to the NFL because he just doesn't give a shit what you think. And it's different from the cliches of press conferences saying like, we're just going to put our heads down, look at the film, and come back next week. We're on to Cincinnati, the Patriots way or whatever. I don't mind that. I understand that you got to protect your game plans. You got to protect your integrity as a football team and just make your guys feel confident. However, it's just nice to hear something different every once in a while. And when that difference is coming from a guy that has been around the block and has had success in the NFL, so he knows what works, Aaron Rodgers knows that the preseason just isn't worth it. Like he knows how to play football. His offense knows how to play football. What's the point? So that's going to do it for Small Talk with Bubba Lutz. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're supporting me on all these different platforms, including TikTok, that's been doing really well lately, I really appreciate you. I love you guys so much, and I promise I'm going to continue. But once football season comes around, I'll talk to the girl. I told Jacqueline, I told her, I was like, look, I've been slacking it a little bit these last few years when it comes to really committing myself to my craft. So just know that, Sundays, I'm all about football. Mondays, probably going to make some videos. But I'm going to be on it this year. I feel like if I really focus in and I lock in, I see nothing but great things for this community, for this channel, and for myself. So thank you guys so much for listening, for watching, and we'll see you next time on Small Talk.